Hey, welcome everybody to the World of Ability Podcast Network. My name is Emily Gomer and a podcast engineer here. I'm excited to bring you another episode of the World of Pets, all about our furry friends. We do every week at 8 o'clock p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Pacific, here on Tuesdays. And so we're gonna have a fun show. In like a animal house. Got a great guest today, so to bring it in Debbie to kick us off today.
Thank you. All right. Yes, my name is Debbie Hayes. I welcome you to World of Pets podcast. And, you know, we want our pets to love us. They have unconditional love for us, just like we have unconditional love for them. We want them to feel safe with us, but we also want them to live for a long time. And we want that life to be really good. We don't want it to be poor quality just for our convenience. We want them to have a good life. So that's what David and I have found something that we feel can facilitate that. But that's not really why we're here doing the podcast tonight. The podcast is just to discover all things pet. And sometimes we laugh, sometimes we cry, but we do have a good time. So tonight our guest is Lisa Benson. And Lisa will tell you about her multitude of pets and try to match it up if you might be looking for a pet that's a little bit unusual, out of the norm. And then over there in the corner is my co-host, David. And I'm sure he will have some questions for Lisa as well.
Welcome in, Lisa. We're glad to have you. Can't wait to hear what you have to share.
Thank you. So I'm Lisa Benson, and hold on. And I live in Vail, Arizona, which is just southeast of Tucson. And I have a ton of pets. I grew up in a farming community, so I've always been around animals, cows, pigs, sheep, goats, all of that stuff. But my passion is rabbits. I am the 4-H coordinator for Pima County for the rabbits. So we got into those in 2012, and we probably have about 30 rabbits right now. Different breeds. There's 52 different breeds of rabbits recognized by the American Rabbit Breeders Association. So that's our passion, because my daughter loves rabbits. I love rabbits, and she started in 4-H with them. So I ran with it, and now I'm the coordinator of the rabbit program. Just some of the breeds we have, we're partial to the lop-eared breeds that are, the floppy-eared ones. The smallest one is a Holland Lop, and then we've got mini Lops. And we've had Rex, mini Rex, English Lops, Velveteen Lop, mini Satin. So, I just got an English Angora, and now we have a Flemish Giant. So rabbit is definitely my passion. We adopted a goat last September who was part of a petting zoo, and he was getting too old for the zoo. So he came to live with us, and he's living his best life as a retired petting zoo goat.
Can we go back to the rabbits just for a minute? Can you sort of describe the difference in there were a lot of different names there.
Yeah.
How do you recognize one from the other?
So the lops, there are 4 different types of lops that are recognized by the American Rabbit Breeders Association. And surprisingly, the Holland Lop is the smallest of the 4. And then next is the mini Lop. No, the American Fuzzy Lop. So our Holland Lops only get to, ideally should only be about 4 pounds. And if you guys are familiar at all with dog shows, they show the dogs, and each breed has a standard that they are trying to live up to. It's the same thing in the rabbit world. So each rabbit breed has certain things that they're supposed to live up to. And then at the shows, they try to pick the best of those, which is the best of the breed.
This
And
is
so,
What
kind
would
of
be an
exciting for
example?
me.
Go ahead.
Kind of exciting conversation for me because the people that watch Peyton Pooh when I'm at work on long days, they have two rabbits that are rescues, by the way. And so I don't know their exact breeds. I know one's a lop and they let her around the house and all that. And the other one is older than Peyton, and Peyton is 16 years old. But she's completely blind, but she is the sweetest bunny on the planet. So what do you know about like the different breeds and how long they live?
in the show world, they tend to not live as long because just like in the dog world, they're breeding certain traits for the rabbits. Um, and so I think sometimes the genetics get jumbled up. And so maybe they don't have. I feel the same way about dogs. Like, I feel like a mutt is more likely to have a longer life than a purebred dog, also. Uh, our best, longest we've had a rabbit is 8 years. 10 years is probably about average. But I don't know, you said 16 years? I mean, I've known other people that have had them for 16, 17 years also. So it just depends. Rabbits are pretty fragile, and I think that's probably a lot of the reason that they don't live as long. Last night we had a horrible storm, and we've been fortunate enough not to, but if a rabbit is startled, it can have a immediate heart attack and die. Or it can jump and break its neck on a wall or the top of a cage. So during storms, the thunder can scare them to death, literally. So that might be part of the reason why I don't know of very many that live to be 17.
So back to the lops, is that the floppy ears?
Yes, so their ears flop down, and it's the type of crown that they have. So the crown is the top of their head, just like ours. And they're a wider crown, which is what helps make their ears flop than the ones whose ears pop up. So, like I was saying, I think there's 5 different breeds. I always forget the fuzzy lop. But there's Holland Lop, Fuzzy Lop, Mini Lop, French Lop, English Lop. Yeah, 5. Those are the recognized breeds. The English Lop is the one, I don't know if you guys have seen, but they have the long ears when they're laying down, and I think that the ideal length of their ears is 22 inches. So,
Wow.
yeah, they are really cool looking rabbits.
Those are long ears.
Yep. And they have different body types. So in 4-H, the kids are learning all of that stuff. And so I don't know all of the breeds, but I have an idea of the most popular breeds. There's certain breeds that are rarer in the rabbit world. And they actually have rare rabbit breed shows where all the people with those rare breeds come together and show. So, but like the English lap has a mandolin shaped body. So its hindquarters sit way higher than its front shoulders. So it kind of looks like a mandolin. So they all have different little traits like that. The Rex rabbit has a unique type of fur called Rex fur. They're the only rabbits, Mini Rex and Rex are the only rabbits that have this fur. And it's like velvet when you touch it. There's another rabbit called a satin, a mini satin and a satin have a different type of fur, and it is shiny fur. And the reason it's shiny is because it has a hollow shaft. So you just, like I was saying, every rabbit is different. The breeds, the fur type, the body types, the ears, colors. There's one breed called a lilac, and it's one of the rare breeds, and it is a bluish grayish lilac color. That's the only way I can explain it to you. So,
Wow.
And that's the color of the rabbit?
yep, and it's called a lilac. There's
Wow.
one called a tan. There's certain ones, like I don't know if you know what a hare is, but they're a wild rabbit and they've got the long legs and the long body, and you always see them running. And so there's certain types of rabbits that are hare like, that are tans. There's the Belgian hare. And when they're judged, they're actually judged by how they run on the table, because that's what they're bred to do, is run. So
Oh, wow.
Well, I know the two rabbits that we have in Colorado that are like native. We have the cottontail, and they're gray, and then we have the jackrabbits, and those look like, if you see them out in the wild, they look like little kangaroos. It's kind of crazy.
they're so cute. We have them here in Arizona too. What's very interesting is domesticated rabbits and wild rabbits are two totally different breeds, basically. So a wild rabbit and a domesticated rabbit cannot interbreed. Uh,
Really?
there's a um, they can breed, but the babies won't survive. There's something in the genetics that doesn't mesh. So
Wow.
That's
a lot of things people don't know about rabbits is, a lot of people think they're a rodent, and they're not. They're part of a group called lagomorphs. So, it's kind of its own thing.
Okay.
Whereas a
And
guinea
I've never
pig,
heard of
say
that.
that
I'm gonna be
again.
honest with you.
Lagomorph, is that what you said?
lagomorph, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, David, were you starting to
No,
talk?
I was just, I've never heard of that before. I wouldn't have even thought that that was an impossibility, if you will. That wild rabbits couldn't breed with bred rabbits.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, and most of our domesticated rabbits come from Europe. So we don't even have the breeds that I've been talking about in the wild in the US, uh, unless somebody's dumped them, which, being the Pima County rabbit coordinator, I get calls all the time for people saying, "Oh, I found a rabbit. Can you take it? Can I donate it to 4-H?" Most of the time, they're mixed breeds. I don't want to introduce a rabbit that's been out in the wild to my rabbits, because I don't know what diseases it carries. So,
Well, how? Let me ask you this: how far back does that go? Because they had to be bred genetically into being domesticated rabbits, apparently, and separated from the wild rabbits. How long does that go back?
for so I don't know as much about the European breeds, because they're surprisingly they're different from the ones we have here. I do know that some of the royals back in the 1500s and earlier had domesticated rabbits. I don't know exactly what the breeds were. They started coming over here to be shown probably in the 1800s, early to mid 1800s. So I don't know, but that's a great question and something I need to probably do some research on.
Fascinating.
So you said that your daughter really likes rabbits. We'll take her as an example. So how does she have does she have rabbits that she would certain rabbits that she would like to have if she could only have like one or two rabbits as a pet? Is there a certain breed that she would like, or a certain breed that you recommend for whatever reason?
It really depends. When a new kid decides that they want to show rabbits. My first recommendation is for them to go to the American Rabbit Breeders Association website. It's called arba.net. And there they can look at the 52 different breeds and get an idea of their traits and their genetics and what they look like and just all of those type of things. So if they're in it for just getting a pet, a mixed breed is wonderful. And I would probably recommend that more than anything, just because there's so many out there that need homes. If they are looking to show a rabbit, it really depends on what part of the country they live in. In Arizona, we don't see the wool breeds as much. So you've probably heard of an Angora sweater. There's 3 different Angora breeds of rabbits. So they're harder to grow here because they get hot. And so, I wouldn't recommend that. You have to brush them every day. I have an English Angora that has to be trimmed regularly because he just doesn't do well with the heat. So I wouldn't recommend a kid get that kind of rabbit. There's certain breeds that are super mean, and they're the cutest looking little ones, kind of like a Chihuahua is one of the meaner dog breeds. People always see this one, and even the judges are like, oh man, I don't want to touch that rabbit because they're prone to bite, and they're just kind of nasty little things. Although I had a kid in one of my 4-H clubs that had one, and she won a lot of the shows because the judges were so impressed at how well she trained and handled this mean rabbit. If it were up to my daughter and she told me one time, I want to own every breed of rabbit there is at some point in my life. So, I mean, we're on a pretty good streak. I was saying, some of them are just nicer than others. Mini Rex are super nice. Holland Lops are a great breed. Polish are another great breed. And they're smaller and easier for a kid to handle. But like I was saying, the dwarf, the one is called a Netherland dwarf. He's not a very nice rabbit in general. And then the Bretagne Petite is the one I was saying is mean that all the judges don't like. But like I said, there's always exceptions to the rule. And same thing with dogs, I always tell people, I don't know if my rabbit's going to bite, but I also don't know what's going to set off my dog either. My dog, who's nice to everyone, could get irritated or agitated with somebody and bite. And it's the same in the rabbit world.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, because my friends that have the 2 rabbits, one doesn't mind being picked up and held, and the other one puts up a little fit and will scratch the crap out of you if you pick her up. So what are your recommended, techniques as to handling a rabbit that you're trying to be affectionate with?
So people see these fluffy, cute little rabbits and think, oh, they must all be cuddly. You have to think they're a prey animal. So they are going to be afraid of being held and held down. Yeah. So, and anything bigger than them is frightening to them. So in general, rabbits don't like to be held and cuddled because it scares them. And again, just like any other person or animal, some of them like to be held and pet more than others. So it really depends. That's my answer to that. Although my daughter had a Holland Lop. And another thing is they will bond with certain people more than others. So my daughter had a Holland Lop. That's what we started with. Her name was Opal, and she was the very first rabbit she got. My daughter was 9 years old when she got her. And in general, does, which are female rabbits, are a little snarkier than the males are. They've got a little more hormones going there. So, they're prone to be a little moody. And my daughter held that rabbit every day until this rabbit would let her do anything with her. So she cuddled with her and everything else. So it depends on how much time you're willing to put in. And like I said, that one that doesn't like to be held of your friends, just it might never like to be held. So you can try all you want, and it's probably not gonna work.
Okay, before we go on to some other animals, can you give us an idea of what your responsibilities are for being in charge of the rabbit program for the 4-H?
So, I wanted to mention one more thing about rabbits that everybody thinks they need a friend, that two rabbits need to be friends. But if you notice in the wild, a lot of times you will see a single rabbit here or there, and they don't really want to be friends, and they will fight to the death. So it's very rare to bond a rabbit. And we always tell people to really watch them, because even rabbits that are bonded can get upset with each other, and they will fight to the death. Male, female, both female, either way.
So if you're not that familiar with rabbits and you're thinking about getting a rabbit as a pet, you would recommend thinking in terms of just getting one.
Yes. And I know that's hard for people, because people think, oh, everybody needs a friend, but it's not necessarily true with rabbits. But anyway, back to what I do for the rabbit project. So my daughter wanted a rabbit when she was 8 years old, and I said, absolutely not. We're not doing that. We're not going there. And finally, she convinced me, and I said, all right, if you get a rabbit, you have to join 4-H. And for people who don't know what 4-H is, it's mostly livestock. That it started back in the early 1900s to teach kids how to take over the family farm. As the Industrial Revolution was happening, kids were not staying and taking care of the farm. So 4-H was a way to get them to stay and take care of the farm. So it started more with the large stock, the cows and pigs and sheep, things that people use to eat for their families, and has kind of morphed into be all of this stuff. So in order to get her rabbit, she had to learn everything there was to know about rabbits. So that's my job now, is teaching kids as much as I know about rabbits and how to find more information about rabbits. So I do workshops once a month with the kids, preparing them for the Pima County Fair, which is in April every year. And they learn how to handle the rabbits, which is called showmanship. And it's not just them showing how to show a rabbit. They're learning how to check its eyes to see if they're healthy, and its teeth to make sure they're healthy. Ears, do they have bugs? There's different things that we're teaching them to look for, back to the standard of perfection that we're all striving to get. Is their fur the right color, their eyes the right color? Some of them can have abnormalities with their legs, so we're looking at their legs to see that they're straight. Same with tails, toenails, we're teaching them how to care for them. So that's what my workshops focus on. And then I also do shows. So we do 2 big shows throughout the year. One of them is called Fur and Feather. And that one has rabbits, pygmy goats, cavy, which are guinea pigs, chickens, pigeons. That's it. But I'm in charge of the rabbit part of that. And then we do another one called Rabbit and Cavy Classic. And again, it's just the kids show the judges the way they are able to handle a rabbit, and then their knowledge of the rabbit. And then we're also doing confirmation, which is the judges are looking at the rabbit to see how much they meet the standard of perfection. So that's what I do. And then my big show is the Pima County Fair. Last year we had about 200 rabbits. So I have to organize all of those rabbits, making sure they all have cages, coordinate judges to make sure they can come and judge. We usually do it the first weekend of the fair on a Saturday and a Sunday. we watch the public, make sure that the public is learning about the rabbits, but keeping the rabbits safe at the same time. So it's quite a feat for me, but I love it. I have so much fun. I love watching the kids, start out and know nothing about rabbits and they're afraid to pick it up. And then by the fair, they're pros, and that's my goal as the rabbit leader.
Wow, that's great. So, so you mentioned deformities. So what happens, not necessarily in the judging, I'm assuming that they would not be entered in judging if they had a deformity. Is that correct?
So there's different types. There's disqualifications and there's faults. So there's certain ones that are a definite disqualification. So if a rabbit has a broken tooth, that's a disqualification. However, rabbits' teeth grow constantly. So they're like our fingernails. And if there is an issue with a broken tooth, more than likely it's going to grow back in and it'll be fine. So just because it's deformed, as you're calling it, at the one show doesn't mean that at the next show its teeth are perfectly fine. So that would be a disqualification. There's certain things that are faults. I'm trying to think of a good one, and I can't think of one right now. All I can
Is a
think of
fault something that just deducts a certain number of points from their score? Is that the difference between that and a disqualification?
Yes, that's a great way. So a Holland Lop, and I use that one because that's the one I've worked with the longest and probably know the most about. So they have something called a pinched crown, and I think that's what it's called. And so like their head, you can't see if you're on the podcast, their heads aren't as wide as they need to be, so their ears don't flop. And sometimes we call them airplane ears. They just stick out to the sides. So that would be considered a fault in a rabbit. And the other thing that they can do, so most rabbits have ear control, but the floppy-eared rabbits don't, meaning their ears should always be down. But if they have ear control, they can pop their ears up every once in a while, and that's a fault. But that's only if the judge notices it. Sometimes the rabbits won't even do that. So,
oh my gosh, it's quite a technical. Where did the judges get trained?
It's quite the process, actually. There's a whole curriculum that they have to follow. They have to judge so many shows. They have to shadow so many judges, and they have to judge in different countries also. So at our Arizona State Convention 3 years ago, we had a judge from Japan that was here getting his licensing. So yeah, it's really a process, and I don't know as much as I should about how that works, but they have to know every single breed and how to pick the best of those, and faults and disqualifications and all of that stuff. So,
and if they're doing more than one country, then they would have to know not just what's familiar with the U.S., but like the guy from Japan, the person from Japan was probably judging in Japan also. So they would have to know about the Japanese rabbits as well.
So that I as far as I know, they're part of our Rabbit Breeders Association. So they don't have their own shows. Hey guys, so the Rabbit Breeders Association, American Rabbit Breeders Association, is divided into districts, and I know that Asia is in one of the districts, and also Mexico is in a district, and Canada is in a district. So, however, like I said, hey guys, the European rabbits have their own standard that they work with. So they've got some different breeds that we don't have.
Okay.
Well, that seems like that's a really big deal. I mean, is this just the owners of the rabbits funding the process and all that, or do they have NGOs and all that kind of stuff?
Do they have what?
NGOs, non-government organizations, nonprofits, basically.
Um, I think that the judges actually fund it all themselves. There's probably some
Wow.
scholarships out there for judges to get certified, but as far as I know, if you want to be a judge, you do it yourself, and they travel a lot. And I don't know if it's something that you can deduct on your taxes, like a job.
Yeah.
They do get paid, so they have
Okay.
fees, so it probably is treated like a job.
Yeah. Okay. So this is exciting. I really want to talk about tortoises.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, they now the ones that you have live a long time.
So the ones we have are African sulcatas. They're one of the largest tortoises on the planet. Obviously, they're from Africa. They can live up to 150 years. And right now, I would say they're probably about 40 pounds each, and they are 10 years old next month. So um, we've got a long haul ahead of us, and I don't know what you do when they get up to 150 pounds because they're kind of hard to move right now. So,
They don't move unless they want to. If they're 150 pounds, I guess. Huh?
well, I mean, then you'd have to leave them, right? Wherever you live. I don't know.
Oh,
I mean,
you're saying like if you moved, like if
yeah,
you're moving to a different house. Okay, yeah,
yeah.
you're right.
I was saying we'd probably have to get a special dolly to hoist them up on to move them around. Or, I mean, if they need to go to the vet, we'd have to figure out a way to get there.
Right,
So,
right. That's true. So, have you thought about like putting them in your will so that you have somebody that's going to take care of them because they're probably going to outlive you, right?
they will, yeah. No, I hadn't really thought of that, but we tell my daughter that she's getting
Okay.
them. So,
Yeah.
which my grandpa gave them to us when she was a little girl, and they fit in the palm of our hand. And now they're 40 pounds. So uh,
Wow.
she's the animal person, probably because we're animal people. So
So
Just
do
for
they
reference,
wander
for
around your? I'm sorry, David.
oh no, you're fine. I was just for reference, my 16-year-old dachshund is about 17 pounds, and yeah, so and he's heavy. So a 40-pound tortoise, that's a pretty hefty bag to carry around if you're going to want to transport it.
yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think of something I can compare their size to.
Hmm.
I mean, they're bigger than a basketball, obviously.
And not quite as heavy as a car battery.
No, well, yeah, true.
Bigger,
So
probably bigger, but not quite
somewhere
as
in
heavy.
between.
I don't know. Car batteries are pretty heavy,
I
so
know.
Right. So did they run? So did they run around? They probably don't run anywhere, right? They sort of plod slowly. But are they? Do all of the animals interact, or do you have them all separated? I guess that's the best way to answer the question.
so the so anytime we get an animal, I the research and knowledge I learn about them goes on and on and on. So I'm always trying to learn more about them and everything. So I read that African sulcatas roam miles every day. That's what they do in Africa. So we lived on about a quarter of an acre when we got them. So they were pretty small, and they would go all over the yard. And now we live on a little over an acre, and they have a route that they go through the yard. So they do kind of run. Now we keep them over in a fenced off area because this is gross, but the dogs like to eat their poop. So, um, and they like to roll in their poop. So we have had some pretty nasty dogs coming in the house. And so for the safety of the dogs and the tortoises and our noses, we have put them in their own area. So every once in a while we let them out. And I don't know if you guys have seen Jurassic Park, but the velociraptors are always testing the boundaries, trying to find weaknesses in the fences. So we always say the tortoises are looking for the weakness in the fence, because if they can get out, they will. And they love it. They love to come out. They have so much more of a personality than I ever thought that a tortoise could have. But they do, I mean, they're fast when they want to be, Debbie. So they're not just plodding along like you would think. But
Right.
yeah, when that gate's open, you'll turn around and they're gone. And you're like, wait, where'd they go? And they usually, they like the different grasses we have. They love prickly pear fruit. So we've got prickly pear cactus around that they will eat. And they just like to wander and roam the yard.
So you said that they have a personality. How do they, how would you describe what their personality is like, and how that lets you know that they have their own personality?
Well, like I was saying, they're like little velociraptor. We always call them little dinosaurs anyway, because I imagine that's what dinosaurs look like, a reptile type thing.
Mhm.
They want out, like when they are, they're determined to get out. They dig, they look for ways to get out of their yard area. You can tell, I don't know how, but you know that they're excited to get a strawberry. They love strawberries. Or certain lettuces that they like to get. They're interested in what you're doing. And again, I don't know exactly how to describe it, but
But they'll come up to you if you're doing something. They'll come up to you and then stop, and like they're looking at and examining what you're doing.
They are. So I was out on the back porch one day putting together a patio table. They kept coming over and looking like, what are you doing? And they would climb over my legs. And so I guess that's the best way to describe it. They look for what we're doing.
Wow. That's really interesting. David, did you have another question? Did I?
No, I was interrupting with a bark because my dogs was barking. So no, that's actually fascinating that and I would assume because they're an animal that lives longer than most, like dogs live for 8 to 20 years, and they don't develop a whole lot of cognition, but when you've got an animal that can live to 150 years, they probably develop some kind of awareness around themselves, which is fascinating that you say that, because you say they pay attention to what you're doing, but they're very specific. And I've seen video of turtles that are running. They are not, it's not like the old story of the tortoise and the hare, where the tortoise starts, the hare comes back, and then the tortoise is just crossing the finish line. No, it's they actually move, and they move fast. I've seen video of it, and it's fascinating to me because it's. I guess it would be the I don't know what's that word. The stigma that's been put on them.
For
You
sure.
know, yeah. So it's
Yeah.
just like, yeah, oh, they're just slow animals. No, they're not. They're
No.
actually like super aggressive. Don't cross a snapping turtle, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, they another way they show their personality. They love to go in the garage and into our shed. And so if that door's open, you can guarantee that that tortoise is going to run into that shed. And there's been a few times where we couldn't find them and somehow they snuck into the shed. I mean, I told you they're huge, so I don't know how they sneak by us. I'm gonna put these guys out. Hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
For them to
like a
sneak
whole
in
other
there.
story. Yeah, my daughter loves turtles and tortoises and all that. So I bought her several stuffed ones over the years when she was growing up, and she always would share. She was the first one that would share that started sharing videos with me. Dad, look what this turtle can do. Look what this tortoise can do. Like, what the heck is going on around here? That's not what I was told when I was growing up.
Yeah. Well, my sister had a red-eared slider when we were kids, and they're a water turtle. Then the difference is between a turtle and a tortoise is water and not water.
Right.
And my mom would take it out front because it lived in an aquarium. And so she'd take it out to wash the aquarium. And one time she turned her back for a second, and that turtle was down the road. Like he had gone out onto the sidewalk and down at least 3 houses before she realized it was gone.
Oh man.
Oh gosh. So again, is there any type, or would you have specific advice for anybody who thinks that they might want a tortoise for a pet?
I'd say get a box turtle or something that's going to be small because, yeah, I don't know what we're going to do with these big guys.
Right.
And I would never get a water turtle unless you have a pond that you want to put it in because that was a lot of work having it in the house in an aquarium.
Yeah.
I bet.
And it got huge. So they don't stay little. They're cute at the pet store, little, red-eared sliders, but they get big.
Yeah.
Well, how fast, on that note, how fast did they develop?
I don't, the turtles, I moved away before I bought it for my sister because she's quite a bit younger than me. And then I moved away. So I didn't pay much attention to it. I want to say that one grew pretty quickly. The tortoises are a little slower growing. Like I said, they're 10 years old. And they started out as just in the palm of my hand. And now they're a little bigger than a basketball.
Wow. So any other pets that we want to talk about? You've got what else? Quail, and did you say quail and pigeons?
Pigeons are quite interesting. My daughter wanted to show. My daughter showed pretty much everything she could in 4-H. So the pigeon was one of the pet projects you could do, and people eat pigeons too. But all of ours are fancy pigeons. There's probably 800 different varieties of pigeon, which I had no idea. Specifically, we have fantails, and they have a beautiful fantail, kind of like a turkey is the best way I can describe that. We have another one called an English trumpeter. They've got these huge feathered feet and a curl of a feather on top of their head. So those were just some that we really liked. There's tumbler pigeons. They don't fly. We had a couple of those for a while, but they tumble if they get scared, or I'm not sure what their purpose is. Kind of like fainting goats. I don't know what their purpose is, but and they're judged just like dogs and rabbits on how they conform to a standard of perfection. And the tumblers, I always recommend those are great pets for kids. They're fairly easy to take care of, and they don't fly. So
Hmm.
they, they'll tumble, and that's pretty much it. And it's just kind of cool to see that.
You said
So,
you had a goat. How about that? How's
so
that
the goat,
adventure?
so the goat is a mixed breed of some sort. His name's Jackson, and we had another goat named Michael, so we had Michael Jackson. And um, Michael was a young goat and just full of energy. He was intact. He was made to be with the ladies and breed, and he was a Nigerian dwarf, so he stayed small. But the kids that raised them for milk, and so he would have been he was more useful to the kids to raise milk goats than to us to just have as a pet. So Jackson's an only goat, and he's just a lot of fun. Again, a personality you just wouldn't think that a goat would have. But he knows how to open the shed, so he goes in the shed and grabs his own treats when he wants them. He climbs on everything, and he's another one that if we're out feeding the chickens and working on something, he's looking to see, oh yeah, I see what you're doing there. Can I help you?
Yeah, I was gonna ask. I've seen the videos of the goats in trees and stuff. Like, is he that adventurous yet?
So Jackson came to us, like I said, a year ago, and he was a petting zoo goat and old. So he's got a bad hip, and so he's not one of those. However, Michael, who went to live with the 4-H kid, was, and he would jump the fence and go stand on our wall out front. We have a rose bush out there and a little courtyard, and he'd stand on the wall, and my husband could look out of his office window and see Jackson or Michael eating our rose bush. And he was raised by
Oh,
children
goodness.
in 4-H. So if he heard the neighborhood kids out playing, he would jump the fence and go see them,
Right.
which was so cute but obnoxious for us. He was a head butter, and he'd run up. He hit me hard a few times, and he could knock you down, and just a little stinker of a goat. Mischievous, everything. So I think Jackson's enjoying his retirement much better without his little mischievous brother.
Oh, wow. Well, this has really been interesting, huh, David?
Yeah, it's been a great talk for sure.
Yeah. Anything that you would like to add in closing out, Lisa?
No, we just have a passion for animals, and people come to me all the time. Where can I find and I can probably tell you where you can find one. So if you want a pet, I'm usually the go-to person, and I think that's why I end up with so many pets. But I don't think I'd trade it for anything. I love all I've learned and just the happiness they bring me.
Yeah.
I would agree with you 100%. I love animals, and I know Debbie does too. So
Yes.
you've been a wonderful guest. That was a wonderful conversation.
Yes, I think so too. And kudos to Lisa, because Lisa has a full-time job in addition to her full-time job taking care of all these pets. So congratulations, Lisa.
Thank you.
Yeah, for real.
All right. Yeah, I talked to Lisa about maybe coming over when they're doing their show or something and interviewing, taking pictures of some of the pets and interviewing some of the 4-H kids and supervisors like Lisa. So
That'd be super fun, and we'd love to have you back on again too.
Yeah,
Especially
sure.
with some footage that we can share in the, in the intermittently and be like, hey, I want to highlight these pets and these kids with the pets and all that stuff. That would be wonderful.
Yeah, I'd love to have you at the fair because that's one of the times when we're all together. So,
Uh-huh.
we can go around and talk to the kids who show pygmy goats and the kids who show dairy goats, and there's chicken kids and turkey kids and rabbit kids. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. All right. Thank you. Emily, you going to close us out here?
I am looking at Lisa. So Lisa, the while we're waiting on Emily to close us out, where can people find you or find your resources?
Well, you can email me if you would like. That's
Okay.
probably the best way to find me. I have a weird email address, but the Pima County Rabbit address is Pima County 4-H Rabbit at gmail.com. That's probably the best
Perfect.
way. I mean, I probably won't be the rabbit coordinator forever, but if you're interested in rabbit, that would be the way to go. And then call Debbie if you need anything, and she'll say, "Hey, Lisa, somebody I know wants a monkey," and I'll say, "Oh, I know somebody who has a monkey." I don't, but
Excellent. Excellent. Be more than happy to be the go-between there.
there you go. Yeah.
Well, thank you again, Lisa.
All right. Thank you.
Wonderful
Yeah.
guest.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah. Thank you, Lisa, for joining us. This has been great. Again, we are here every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 o'clock Central. And would love to have everybody come on as a guest. So if you're interested, please let us know. On this show or any of the other shows on our network. And great to check out of our partners of Disability Channel, Need Studios, the Pack Channel, and so on. So anyway, I guess until next time, have everybody have a safe and productive week and to stay happy.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Emily.
Thanks
Bye.
again, Lisa.